This is a quick demo of Partner Connect, how it works, and what it can do for you. So let's start first on where it fits. This is a quick diagram of the process food follows in a country. So I'd like to start here from the analysis and decision making, where we decide and find which areas need more food, what kind of food, and when. That triggers a procurement process, and through the supply chain, it's bought around the world, and the food is stored in warehouses. Later, through the FLAs, we reach to our final distribution points with our cooperating partners. And after the food is distributed, we can do monitoring and the cycle starts again. And at the core of this system, we have our own WFP systems like Comet, LESS, Wings. And from our side, these systems make sense. Comet manages our programmatic information, indicators, as well as less taking management of the supply chain, how food is being moved, and Wings on the procurement side. The problem is that the cooperating partner, being such a large part of this process, has no visibility on these systems. That's where Partner Connect comes in. We try to build bridges through modules that directly allow partners to input data into our systems and also extract data from our systems. We have a series of modules, including the FLA management module, invoicing and payment module, and today we'll be focusing on the distribution and reporting module, the CDPR. So quickly, a diagram of the process flow in the partner side. We start with the daily ad hoc distributions, where there's a collector in the partner side, and they at the FTP gather information regarding the amount of participants and the tonnage of food distributed. Those reports can be collected offline or online, and then they're aggregated automatically in the monthly report. An online report, which is managed by the editor, still in the partner side, and is then sent to the approver at the partner side. Once the approver, the partner, sends it to the WFP, it goes to the verifier. This role can or cannot exist in a country depending on the structure of the country office. And after the verifying process, which happens at the field office level, it has to go to the approver in WFP, which once approved, it goes into Comet and the rest of the system. So for the partner, we have three main roles: the data collector, the editor, and the approver. The collector can edit its own daily reports, can submit forms and delete their own forms, modify them, and it can see also the monthly report done by the editor, as well as data inputted by other collectors. But they cannot edit the monthly report nor the inputs by other colleagues. The editor instead has the capacity to look and edit at all the reports from all the collectors and also the monthly report that aggregates the data that comes from all the collectors. Once the editor, who has a capacity to review the stocks, look at the batch numbers, make sure the beneficiaries are unique, then that report is sent to the approver, and the approver has the role of either sending it back to the editor for changes or sending it to WFP. So let me show you the system quickly now. Great. So what you see here is a list of the reports that this user, Enrique Moro, who is from World Vision, has pending to work on. If I press View Reports, then you will see the list of reports that he has been assigned to report on. In this case, in September. If I want to report for August, I will need to select August, of course. But let's do September, and I could filter either by the year or activity code. For example, let's say that we want to work on a report on MAM. So I can type MAM, and we will see all the reports related to MAM. Let's say we're working in Mekelle, Tigray, a location in Ethiopia, and I can see that the report is ready for submission, right? It's ready for the work on it. In this case, that report on the top is awaiting for partner approval. So I press the arrow and it takes me inside the report. And we can see that we have three main tabs: the daily submissions, which are online, the daily submissions that are offline, and then the monthly report that aggregates the data from all the daily submissions. We have already two daily submissions. one with 1,000 participants and 4 metric tons, and one with 400 participants and 1 metric ton in the Meles FDP. We can add a new one, and I'll show you how to do that by pressing distribution. And we have 4 simple steps to complete a daily submission. Daily or weekly. In this case, it's MAM, so it probably will be weekly as the health centers operate on a week basis. So the first step is when and where, then the participants, commodities, and review and submit. When and where, we start with the dates. Let's say this was distributed between the 8th and the 14th of September in the Meles FTP. I can select the current GPS coordinates, and if I don't like where those send me, I can navigate to the right location. Let's say here in Mekele. I press next, and that takes me to the second step. The second step shows me the participants. Automatically, these age groups come from Comet, as well as the participant group. We see that we have pregnant, breastfeeding women and girls, and children. Let's input the number of females participant. Let's say there was 30 females collecting food, and of those 30, 5 were new. So note that the total is 30 because within those 30, 5 were new, not over those 30. So it's not 35, it's 30. The same with the participants and children. We have in this age group of 0 to 23 months, we have 20 participants, 4 of them were new, 50 participants in the female side in this age group, and of those, 5 were new. Let's say we had 60 participants from 24 to 59 months, and all of them, 60 were new. If I were to put 61, the system will tell me there's an error and I need to fix it. Number of new cannot be higher than the participants. So let's say there were 60. 40 in the female side, and of those, 35 were new. Great. Next step, we go to the commodities, and here we can see a table that has the batches and commodity types that have already been worked on this project. We see they've been working with this batch number finishing in 08 and the one finishing in 23 for Superzeros Plus. So let's say that we received 2 tons during that week, and we distributed another 2.5 tons. Note that we don't have an opening nor a closing balance. Those are available only at the monthly report. That's the one that's reconciled with WP. These are the daily reports and are completed by the partners. Let's say we also had a loss of 0.1 of 100 kilograms, and immediately the system tells me that I need to register a loss. So I said it was attacked by termites, let's say. We also received 5.5 metric tons of Superzeros Plus. We had internal movement of 1 ton. Let's say that ton went from this FTP to another FTP. If we would have been positive, it means that it arrives to this FTP. And that we distributed 4.5 tons. No losses, nothing returned, and we press next. The final step is just to review and submit. So we see the location, the date, the participants, children, and we have the commodities. We have a space here to add any other notes, for example, that we would like to say. In this case, we'll leave it blank and we shall submit. All right, after submitting, we see that we have the initial 2 plus the new one, Meles. And we can edit this report or delete it altogether. So the partner still has a capacity to edit this report as long as they have not been working on the monthly report. Okay, let's say that we want to modify something in the commodity table, and let's say we want to fix this. In reality, they distributed 1.5, there was a mistake there, and we can press next and submit. This updates the data and allows us now to take a look at the offline version of these reports. Sometimes we don't have connection and we need to work offline. To access the report offline, you need to press under the report you have open, in this case September 2024 for MAM treatment in Michele Tigray for World Vision, they have a link here that allows them to open an offline version of the report. If I press it, it opens this Partner Connect ad hoc offline form. This form has information initially showing the location that we're reporting for. In this case, Tigray, Mekele, MAM, so those are correct. And I'll save it. If I save it, I'll save it with a name that's easy to find afterwards. Remember that if you save it, you'll be able to access it even offline. September 2024, Mekele, Tigray. Perfect. Now that I saved, I can go and access it offline at any time I want. Remember that if I go to another month, then it'll be a different link, which I also will have to save. So let's select dates from the 15th to the 20th. Melis FTP, and we select the GPS coordinates here. I can also move them manually if I want, and I press next. The second step is again the beneficiaries. In this case, since it's offline, we cannot pull data directly from the system since there's no connection to the internet. So we need to select manually the beneficiary groups. I'll select children and say there were 10 here, 10 here, and 100 in this age group, another 100 in this age group. I'll add a new beneficiary group, in this case, the pregnant and breastfeeding women and girls. And I'll say that they were 10 men, which is a mistake. It can't be. I'll put it there anyway, just to show you that the system will later ask me to correct these things. We cannot correct in the offline version. The offline version will accept the data, but then when it goes to the online, it'll request to correct those, and I'll show you how that works. We press next, and we go to the commodity section. Again, since this is offline, we cannot pull from the system the commodity types. So we need to select, type down, for example, CSB plus, CSB plus, and we can select the commodity that belongs to us, and we can type in a batch number. In this case, I'll type in a wrong batch number. And, Yeah, we receive 2 tons and distributed the same 2 tons. And I'll add our USF, again with a wrong batch number, saying that we received 10 tons, distributed 5. And we can submit that. Later, after 10 minutes, and after you have connection, that report will be sent to the online side. On the online side, we can review that report to correct those things, right? So we can see here that we have a report that I submitted before, and it says it needs to be reviewed. So press convert, and it'll open the report, flagging the errors from the offline version. So you see here that we have males, and it says males from 18 to 59 are not available, have to be 0, right? Because they're pregnant. It's not possible to be pregnant in a male. So we fixed that. And if we scroll down, we see that we put the wrong batch numbers. So he tells us we need to fix that. We select the right batch number in this case. And the same with SuperSeals Plus. I select the right batch number. I can add a waybill if I'd like and update that commodity. Great. So we can convert, and now from the offline, it'll go into the daily submissions. And we'll see that we have manual, and this one comes from the offline side, which is a different FTP. And we can also delete that or edit it as a normal daily submission. So let's say we have finished our monthly work and we're going to report the monthly report. So let's go to the monthly report, the one that aggregates all this data. So we can see that we have the possibility of reporting no activity. Right now it's grayed out. It's not allowed to be selected because we have had activity. So the system tells us you cannot say you have had no activity. The same thing with stocks only. We have reported that we have distributed this to commodities. So it's not possible to report stocks only. So this would be if there's no activity in the FTP or in that particular location. And this one is only received food or moved food and not actual distributions. These reports will skip beneficiaries, for example. This one will skip everything. So let's do to a monthly report. We press edit, submit, monthly report. And we have again 4 steps: basic information, participants, commodities, and review and submit. We have the first section with already selected locations for us. Then the number of days. This is the number of days the food is intended to last. Let's say the food is intended to last 30 days, and that's something agreed in the FLA with the partner. So the partner should know the number of days that the food that was provided is intended to last. Let's say also that, for example, some locations might have a double distribution. In that case, they report 30 days for September and also 30 days for October. In that case, it would be 60 total days. Now we're just going to leave 30, and we will select there was no problems encountered, and we can add any notes. Additionally, we have the space to upload documents. For example, I would like to add a waybill. So I can search it with my phone, take a picture, or upload any document. In this case, I'm uploading an image. And I can also add, let's say, nutrition KPI reports. This is for additional indicators that you'd like to add. You can also upload that document here in the same way. It could be an Excel, and there's a limit of 10 megabytes, which should be more than enough. Like, let's say also add a narrative report, and I can upload that document as well. Oops. Perfect. So when we go to the next step, and before I go there, I can show that there is a history for that report showing who has been inputting data in that report, in the monthly report. If I go next, you shall see now that the history has a draft at this current date and time. So we have the list of beneficiaries, with the main difference that in this stage in the monthly report is a bit more complicated because it allows us to report in different ways. In this case, this is MAM. This is has a ratio of 1-to-1 between the participants and the beneficiaries, meaning that all the people that we assisted that received the food in the dailies are also the beneficiaries. It could be sometimes that we work with general multipliers. In the case of general food distribution, we might need to have a multiplier, for example, of 5. So every person that collected the food, for every one of them, there means that there is 5 people in the house also that we're helping. So based on that, if you press general multiplier, you will see that you have the initial table of the participants and then a secondary table here for the beneficiary numbers. And we can see here that for every 1,049, we see that we have 5,245. Right? Yeah. So we could apply the demographics or simply a multiplier. If you apply the demographics, you will see that it'll take demographics from Comet. And in this case, the demographics are always that age group and that gender, because this is pregnant lactating woman. Because in this case, we will just use a 1-to-1 ratio. We will skip that. There's also a possibility of doing this manually. And countries that work like that should be selecting manually type both participants and beneficiary numbers. We'll have a 1-to-1 ratio, so we have only one table. So the participants are the beneficiaries. And here we can either delete age groups or add new age groups. For example, let's say that we wanted to add this age group here. And let's say there was 10 participants that were between 12 to 17 years old, and those 10 were all new. And we can also add the other age groups. And I could, in this case, delete the old ones. And I also need to provide the resident status of this. In this case, I know that all of them, the full 1,059, are residents. So what I will do is I'll type 100% here in the total column. All of them were residents. I can also do that by numbers. So if I go to numeric, I can also type in here saying that, let's say 1,059 were females. Let's do a test here and say there was a mistake here and I add 50. And later on, when we try to submit, it'll tell us there's an error here because you have a higher number, right? So if we go here, next, it'll tell us this error, right? It's not matching. So I'll have to fix it and say, oh yes, there's 1009. And then those totals match. Same here with the children. We have the participants that are the beneficiaries. And here we can change values if we would like. Let's say 170 instead, as we are the editors. This is the role of the editor right now, who is aggregating the data from all the reports. So these numbers are not the figures we entered, it's the figures we entered plus all the other figures entered by the other reports. And here I can also have to say, that all of them in this case are residents. So let's say 630 are female residents, and out of the 210 males, 200 are residents, and 10 of them are IDPs, which is an example. I press next, and we jump to the commodity section. Here we have the commodities that we have in all the different reports, right? So the offline or online. And we can see that we have an opening stock in this case and a closing stock. The opening stock is available and pulled from Comet report of last month. So if your WFP counterpart has not approved last month closing stock, you will have a zero opening stock. Right? So it's very important that your WFP counterpart has approved and validated in Comet their closing stock for last month. Okay, so let's work here. We see that we have a closing stock of 400 kilograms, and it's asking us to split that distributing. So we have the LNS, RUSF. We know that's always for children in this case, so we give it 100%. So the full 540 kilograms or 0.54 tons goes to the children, 0 to the pregnant woman. Same here with the RUSF. And let's say that is 100% for children. And the Super Seals Plus, we can say that is 100% for the females in this batch number. And for this particular batch number, we'll have 50-50. So I can write 50 and 50 here. So you can see that the total of 2.45 tons under that particular Super Seals Plus batch number, half and half goes to the children and pregnant breastfeeding women and girls. Great. Before we go though, the table is telling us that there's a negative stock. This can't be the case, right? Saying, yes, I have a negative stock here. It's -1 ton. I cannot have a -1 ton, so something's off. Oh yes, it's here. And I can say, actually, this was not negative. It actually arrived. We arrived 1 ton from a different location, and we close with 1 positive ton. I can add another commodity or delete commodities, as well as modifying these values, because I am the monthly editor. There's a small table here in the bottom that divides the number of beneficiaries against the total tonnage on each of the commodities. So we have here a simple calculation that allows us to see if somebody made a mistake. For example, it's normal to have our USF of up to 1 kilogram. This may be a value that's too high, so somebody might have made an error here. And in reality, it was 0.55 tons. So now the figure is a bit more reliable. It's around 300 grams per beneficiary, and that makes more sense. It's just informative. We could still submit with the original value that we had of 5.5. We can submit. Great. That is how a monthly report is submitted. We can review the last step. It shows us the documentation that we've uploaded before, the location, the participants for children, their status, the participants for women, their status, and the commodity tables. We can save it as a draft for other editors to review or submitting it. And if I submit it, it goes as an email notification to the approver in the partner side, and that approver can approve the report. In this case, Enrique is also an approver. So so the same role can be held by multiple people, or it could be also that one person hosts both roles in smaller NGOs. So I'll press view and approve report, and I'll have the possibility now to review that report. If you see the figures, maybe I see an error. And if I see an error, I can send it back. And if I send it back, it tells me, please add a comment, explain why you're sending back, right? But if I don't send it back, I can approve that report. Great. And at the same time, partners can also view dashboards, a dashboard that will show them the summary of this data, and they can download the data as well.